The sun burned over Dry Creek like it had a personal grudge. Heat shimmered above the dirt street, warping the line of crooked buildings until they looked ready to melt into the desert itself. Horses flicked their tails against stubborn flies, their ribs sharp under sun-bleached hides. The only sound was the lazy creak of a saloon sign swaying on rusty chains, though the whole town seemed to be holding its breath. Inside that silence, a lone rider approached. Her horse, a battered chestnut mare with one torn ear, moved slow, deliberate, like both beast and rider had known hunger, thirst, and too many miles of trail. The rider's hat shaded her face, but the dust-stained duster she wore did little to hide that she wasn't just another drifter passing through. Her back was straight, her gaze never wavered, and when she pulled the reins and stopped in front of the sheriff's office, the whole town seemed to notice. The lone rancher. Some swore her name was Clara McKenna. Others claimed she'd left her true name behind along with a ranch burned to the ground by greedy hands. But everyone who whispered about her in saloons and gambling halls knew one thing. She was a woman who'd survived when no one expected her to, and she carried that survival in the steel of her eyes and the pistol at her hip. Clara swung down from her mare, boots hitting the ground with a soft thud. Dust swirled around her ankles. The sheriff's office door groaned when she pushed it open, revealing a narrow room that smelled of stale coffee and old tobacco smoke. Behind the desk sat Sheriff Walter Briggs, a thick, shouldered man with a jaw like a slab of granite and eyes that had seen too much. "Didn't figure I'd see you back here," Briggs muttered, leaning back in his chair. "Last I heard, you were headed west for good." The Clara didn't waste words. She removed her hat, revealing auburn hair damp with sweat and eyes as sharp as a hawk's. "I came back because I've got unfinished business. You heard about the McKenna land?" The sheriff's jaw tightened. He knew exactly what she meant. Everyone did. 2 years ago, Clara's husband, Daniel McKenna, had been gunned down under mysterious circumstances. His family, her in-laws, had swooped in soon after, taking over the ranch, the cattle, and the fortune that came with it. Clara had been left with nothing but the clothes on her back, and when she resisted, when she demanded her rightful share, they humiliated her. Stripped her bare in the yard like a thief, ran her off her own land while the neighbors looked on in silence. No one in Dry Creek ever forgot that day. "I heard," the sheriff said carefully, "but you ought to know by now. Taking on the McKenna clan's a death sentence. They've got hired guns, money, and half the town in their pocket. You ride in here and stir dust. You'll find more than you bargained for." Clara's lips curved, though it wasn't quite a smile. "I ain't stirring dust, Sheriff. I'm reclaiming what's mine, and anyone stands in my way." She tapped the handle of her Colt. "They'll answer for it." The sheriff studied her for a long time, then sighed. "You always were stubborn as a mule. But I'll give you one piece of advice. If you're fixing to go after them, don't do it alone. McKenna's play dirty." Clara tipped her hat back on, gave a short nod, and walked out without another word. The saloon was the only place in town that still had life to it. Piano keys stumbled through a tune that had lost its rhythm. Boots scuffed against warped floorboards, and the low hum of talk rose and fell like the tide. As Clara stepped inside, the room went quiet. Heads turned. Cards froze mid-deal. Everyone knew her face and the storm she carried with it. She ignored the stares, heading straight for the bar. "Whiskey," she said, sliding a silver coin across the counter. The bartender hesitated, then poured. His hands shook just enough for the amber liquid to slosh over the rim. From a table near the back, a voice drawled, "Well, I'll be damned." Thought the lone rancher had vanished into the desert. Guess ghosts do walk. Clara turned her head slowly. The speaker was a man in his 30s, slick black hair combed back, black vest stretched across a chest too broad for his frame. His name was Clyde Mercer, one of the McKenna's hired guns. His smirk was sharp as broken glass. "Careful what you say, Clyde," Clara replied, her tone calm but heavy with threat. "Ghosts have a way of haunting the living." Laughter rippled through the saloon, though it was nervous, uneasy. Clyde pushed back from his chair, resting one hand on the butt of his revolver. "You don't belong here anymore, Clara. Best keep riding, before someone decides to finish what your in-laws started." Her eyes narrowed, the weight of years of humiliation burning behind them. "Tell your bosses this, I'm not leaving. Not till I get back what's mine." The silence that followed was thick as storm clouds. Clyde sneered, then spat on the floor. "You'll be in the ground before you touch a single fence post." The Clara raised her glass in a mock toast, drained it, and set it down hard enough to crack the rim. "We'll see." That night, she didn't sleep in the saloon, or at the inn, or anywhere near the comfort of town. Instead, Clara set camp just beyond the ridge, where the wind sang through brush and coyotes cried to the moon. She tied her mare, laid her bedroll, and sat by the fire with her rifle across her knees. Her mind drifted back, unbidden, to that night 2 years ago. The firelight seemed to twist into memory, the rough hands of her in-laws, her sister-in-law's cold eyes, the jeering laughter of men who'd once called her family. She remembered the dirt biting into her knees as they stripped away her dignity piece by piece, then cast her into the night like she was worth nothing. Her fists clenched around the rifle. No more. The coyote's cries turned sharper. Clara stood, scanning the darkness. A shadow moved among the rocks, then another. She brought the rifle to her shoulder. She called. Silence. Then, a voice, low, steady, almost respectful. "Easy, rancher. Ain't here to cause trouble." A figure stepped into the firelight. He was tall, with broad shoulders under a trail-worn coat. Dust caked on his boots. His hat shadowed his face, but when he lifted it, Clara saw a pair of eyes cold as river stone. "Name's Eli Cade," he said. "Marshal out of Fort Glory." Clara kept the rifle steady. "Marshals got no business sneaking up on camps at night." "Maybe," Cade replied. "But I heard you rode back into Dry Creek, and I heard why. Figured we should talk." "What makes you think I'll talk to you?" He shrugged. "Maybe the fact that I ain't in the McKenna's pocket, and maybe the fact that I hate men like them about as much as you do." The fire crackled between them, throwing shadows across their faces. Clara studied him, searching for a crack, a lie, some hidden angle. But what she saw was a man worn hard by the West, shaped by it, carrying the same scars she did. Finally, she lowered the rifle. "Talk then?" Cade sat, uninvited but steady. "McKenna's have got a shipment comin', through Devil's Pass in 2 nights. Gold. Enough to buy out every man in Dry Creek twice over. They're using it to lock this town down tight. But if that shipment don't make it..." He let the words hang. Clara's eyes narrowed. "You're suggesting I steal it?" "I'm suggesting," Cade said, voice calm, "that if you want a fighting chance, you cut their legs out from under 'em. You take their gold, you take their power. Otherwise, you're just one woman against an army." The flames hissed. The desert wind whistled, and Clara felt the weight of her past pressing down on her. Her choice had already been made the night they'd humiliated her. She looked Cade in the eye and said, "Tell me where. I'll be there." The desert wind howled through Devil's Pass, a narrow gorge of jagged stone where shadows clung like old bloodstains. The rocks rose high and sharp on both sides, a perfect place for an ambush or a massacre. Clara crouched low behind a boulder, her Colt at her hip, her Winchester steady across her knees. Beside her, Marshal Eli Cade adjusted his hat and squinted toward the winding trail below. "They'll be comin' soon," he said, voice calm, but edged with the kind of steel only years of gun smoke could forge. 4 riders up front, wagon in the middle, 2 more trailing behind. "The McKennas don't take chances when they haul gold." Clara's jaw tightened. "Good. I don't take chances neither." The night pressed heavy around them, thick with the smell of sage and gun oil. In the distance, the clatter of hooves echoed off stone. The sound grew louder, closer, until the moonlight caught the glint of iron shod wheels. Cade nodded once. "On my mark." Clara's heart thudded, not from fear, but from something sharper, a fury that had festered for 2 long years. Tonight wasn't just about gold. Tonight was about sending a message. The lead riders appeared, shadows cut against silver moonlight. Then the wagon, heavy, covered, guarded by 2 hard-faced men with rifles across their laps. The rear riders scanned the ridges nervously, but their eyes passed right over where Clara crouched, hidden in the dark. Cade raised his hand, then dropped it. The gorge exploded. Gunfire cracked, echoing like thunder off stone. Clara's Winchester kicked hard against her shoulder, and the first rider toppled from his saddle, boot catching in the stirrup as his horse bolted. Cade fired quick and precise, dropping another guard before the man could raise his rifle. The wagon lurched to a stop. Horses screamed, rearing in panic. The rear guards wheeled around, shouting curses as bullets sparked off rock. Clara slid from cover, firing smooth, steady, her eyes cold as the steel in her hands. She hit one rider clean through the chest. The man tumbled from his horse and lay still in the dust. The last guard charged her, wild-eyed, revolver blazing. Bullets kicked dirt around her boots. Clara didn't flinch. She raised her Colt, waited for him to come close enough that she could see the whites of his eyes, then fired once. The man crumpled, his revolver falling silent in the dirt. The gorge echoed with the last shots, then fell still, save for the ragged breaths of men and horses. Smoke drifted, sharp and acrid, mixing with the metallic tang of blood. Clara holstered her Colt and strode to the wagon. Cade was already there, dragging a wounded guard out from the seat. He pressed his revolver to the man's temple. Cade growled. The guard spat blood, coughed, and fumbled at his belt until a small ring of iron keys clattered to the ground. Cade kicked him aside and tossed the keys to Clara. Her hands shook as she fit the largest key into the heavy iron lock securing the wagon's chest. With a sharp twist, it snapped open. Inside, the firelight gleamed on gold. Bars stacked neat, gleaming. Enough wealth to buy a county, enough to buy every man's loyalty twice over. For a moment, Clara just stared, her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just money. This was power. The kind of power her in-laws had stolen from her the night they left her naked and broken in the dirt. Cade's voice cut into her thoughts. We can't haul it all. Not with just the two of us. Best take what we can carry, then torch the rest. Clara's eyes flicked up sharp. Torch it. McKenna's can't use what don't exist, Cade said flatly. You want this fight to mean something. You burn their empire to the ground. Gold included. The thought hit her like a hammer. To walk away from wealth this size, madness. But then again, wasn't she already mad? To come back to Dry Creek, to stare down men who wanted her dead? Clara looked back at the chest of gold, her hands clenched into fists. Take enough to keep us fighting, she said finally. Burn the rest. Cade gave a short nod, then struck a match. The flames roared to life, hungry, devouring the gold-lined wagon as the two of them rode hard into the night, with only what they could carry. Behind them, Devil's Pass glowed like a funeral pyre. By dawn, the McKenna's wrath had spread like wildfire. Men galloped through town with rifles, barking orders. Posters butt up on walls and saloon doors. Wan ilav, clrum iani, roardi 5000. Clara stood at the edge of town, cloak drawn tight, hat low over her face as she watched the posters nailed up. The ink was barely dry, but the lies were already set in stone. They'll hunt you like a coyote, Cade muttered beside her. Won't rest till you're hanging from a rope. The Clara's lips pressed thin. Then I best give a reason to fear the hunt. She turned and walked toward the saloon, Cade falling in step. Inside, the room buzzed with tension. Men clustered around tables, whispering, casting nervous glances at the posters now plastered outside. Clara pushed through the crowd, her boots echoing like gunshots on the warped floor. When she reached the bar, she slammed her fist down hard enough to rattle glasses. Listen up, she barked. The room stilled. Every eye turned. You all know what the McKennas did to me, she said, voice steady but sharp. You watched them steal my land. You watched them strip me bare, drive me off like a dog. And not a one of you lifted a hand. A murmur rippled through the room. Shame, guilt, fear. Well, I'm back, Clara continued, and I ain't bowing to them no more. Last night, their gold went up in smoke, and that's just the start. They think they own this town? They don't own me. They don't own you. Not unless you let Silence followed, thick as storm clouds. Then, slowly a voice from the back, she's right. A head's turned. It was an old ranch hand, his hands twisted from years of work, his face lined with dust and sun. He rose, straightening his spine. I seen what they done to her, I seen it. And I'm done bowing. Another man stood, then another. Soon, half the saloon was on its feet, their faces set hard. Cade leaned close to Clara, murmuring, looks like you just started a war. Clara's eyes burned with fire. Good, war's what they deserve.